The Crystal Monarch Hotel glittered like a palace dipped in gold, its chandeliers scattering light across every polished surface. The celebration for Eleanor Hawthorne's 65th birthday had drawn Atlanta's most powerful socialites, politicians, tycoons, media darlings, all clustered in shimmering gowns and tailored suits. The room hummed with self-importance, the kind that made anyone outside that world feel instantly too small. Amara Hawthorne pressed herself closer to a marble column, wishing she could disappear into it. Her beige dress, simple, homemade, and carefully stitched during 3 late-night sessions, felt almost insulting compared to the dazzling couture surrounding her. She smoothed the hem again, even though her hands trembled too much to make it look natural. Across the ballroom, her husband, Lucian Thorne, glided from guest to guest, wearing his expensive charm like a second suit. His tuxedo was immaculate, his smile perfectly rehearsed. He raised glasses, slapped backs, and laughed loudly, letting every camera in the room drink him in. For Lucian, tonight wasn't a birthday party, it was a stage. The moment he spotted Amara clinging to the shadows, his expression tightened. His smile stayed frozen in place for the crowd, but fury flared in his eyes. He marched toward her, grabbing her elbow so firmly she almost yelped. "Why are you hiding like a stray? This is my family's night. Stand where people can see you, preferably standing straight." I didn't want to get in the way," she murmured. "You are always in the way." He released her with a shove, subtle enough to look affectionate to onlookers. Amara forced herself towards the main table where Eleanor, her mother-in-law, sat enthroned in burgundy velvet. Eleanor was a woman who treated generosity as something she performed for applause. Her raised chin, tight curls, and air of superiority made her seem carved out of cold stone. Amara picked up a champagne flute from a passing tray, mostly to keep her shaky hands occupied. She rehearsed in her head what to say. Happy birthday wasn't complicated, but somehow it felt heavy on her tongue. She approached with a small, polite smile. "Mrs. Thorne, happy—" Eleanor turned abruptly, as if Amara were invisible. Her heavy elbow swung wide, smashing into Amara's arm. The flute exploded on impact, sending shards scattering across the floor as champagne splattered onto Eleanor's velvet hem. The room froze. Conversations died mid-sentence. Even the string quartet faltered into silence. Hundreds of eyes snapped in Amara's direction. Eleanor exhaled loudly, theatrically, brushing away the invisible stain. "Naturally," she announced. "You simply cannot bring refinement into some households." Lucian appeared instantly. His face bloomed red, anger rising like steam. Without asking what happened, he seized Amara's arm. "What is wrong with you?" he shouted loud enough for every guest to hear. "Can't you manage a single evening without humiliating me?" She turned suddenly. "Stop your excuses." His grip tightened painfully. "You look like a charity case in rags. You embarrass me just by standing here." He dragged her across the ballroom, ignoring her whispered pleas. "Lucian, everyone is watching." "Good. Let them." He snarled. He shoved her towards 2 security guards. "Get her out. Put her in the car and lock the doors. She can rot there until I decide what to do with her." The guards grabbed her under the arms. Amara didn't fight. Shame crushed all strength from her. They escorted her out into the cold night, shoved her into the back of the black sedan, and locked the doors with a final mechanical click. Inside the dark car, her sobs filled the silence, until the driver, an older man she barely knew, turned and said calmly, "Mrs. Hawthorne, please stop crying. Your father has finalized everything. This company, this car, and the guards, they're yours now. What would you like done with Mr. Thorne?" Amara froze, the words echoing in her mind. Yours. But how could the most powerless person in the ballroom suddenly become the one holding all the power?
For a full 10 seconds, Amara forgot how to breathe. The only sound in the locked car was the faint tapping of rain beginning to fall against the roof. The driver, Mr. Calder, A quiet man who had worked for the Thorne family longer than she had been married watched her through the rearview mirror with steady, unshakable patience. Mine? Amara whispered, barely forming the word. Mr. Calder nodded once. Your father, Lionel Hawthorne, completed the transfer this morning. You are now the sole owner of the Hawthorne-Thorne conglomerate and, consequently, Mr. Lucian Thorne's employer. Amara blinked hard. Her father? The man she believed lived a simple, off-grid life in the countryside, too meek and too poor to do anything but send her the occasional birthday card? She had spent years hiding her salary scraps from Lucian to mail him groceries and medicine, thinking she was keeping him afloat. The paperwork, I don't understand, she said, voice choking. That is precisely why I'm telling you now, Mr. Calder replied. His tone was calm, but carried an undercurrent of urgency. You deserve to know everything before someone else tries to twist the narrative. He reached into the glove compartment and pulled out a tablet encased in a brown leather cover. He passed it back to her. Amara tapped the screen with trembling hands. A government registry page filled the display. Her name, Amara L. Hawthorne, sat next to a title she never imagined seeing. Sole owner and executive chair of the Hawthorne-Thorne Group. Lucian's name was nowhere to be seen. She reread it once, twice, 10 times. The letters didn't rearrange themselves. But Lucian, he always said he built the company, that he inherited the authority, that I should never meddle in business. Her voice cracked at the edges. Mr. Calder exhaled quietly. Lucian built nothing. 10 years ago, your father hired him under a special contractual arrangement. Lucian's role was strictly managerial, temporary. His contract expired last night at midnight. He was never an owner, not for 1 minute. The world tilted. Then why would my father give me the company? Why not tell me any of this? Why let Lucian treat me? Because this was a test, Calder cut in gently. Your father needed to see who Lucian truly was, whether he was worthy of holding power beside you or dangerous enough to be kept away from it. Unfortunately, he proved the latter. I swallowed hard. And he was planning to leave me, wasn't he? Calder reached into his inner jacket pocket and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. Her heart thudded painfully as she opened it. It was a divorce petition dated for the following morning. Under the financial section, spouse claims no assets, no contribution to marital estate, entitled to nothing. Her breath collapsed. He intended to have you escorted out of your home once the contract ended, Calder said quietly. The security team was already instructed. Her vision blurred at the edges, not from tears now, but from a cold, steely fury, replacing every trace of humiliation she felt in that ballroom. I wasted 10 years. No, Calder corrected softly. Lucian wasted 10 years. You survived them. Amara stared out the window at the glowing ballroom windows where her husband toasted and laughed like the king he believed himself to be. Not anymore. Unlock the car, she said, her voice no longer shaking. Calder immediately pressed the button. Amara stepped out into the night, slipped the heavy envelope of emergency funds into her small clutch, and straightened the dress she once felt ashamed of. Now she wore it like armor. As she strode toward the ballroom doors, a single thought crystallized. Lucian Thorne had no idea the queen he tried to cage was coming back to reclaim her throne.
The guards standing outside the Crystal Monarch's entrance stiffened as soon as they saw Amara approaching. Just minutes earlier, they had dragged her out like an unruly guest. Now she walked with a level, deliberate calm that made both men unconsciously straighten their jackets. Mrs. Thorne, one began, instantly regretting the name. Mrs. Hawthorne, Amara corrected softly. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The man blinked, confused. Our orders were to keep you out, ma'am.
Behind her, Mr. Calder stepped into the halo of the doorway lights. "And your employer now says to let her through." A subtle gesture from him, one the guards recognized instantly, made them exchange a brief, almost fearful glance. Without another word, they pulled the heavy oak doors open. Warm light spilled out, along with the rising swell of music and laughter. The celebration had resumed without her. Of course it had. Lucien always knew how to smooth his image for a crowd. Amara stepped inside. The ballroom's opulence no longer overwhelmed her. The glittering chandeliers, the polished floors, the sea of sequined gowns, all of it felt suddenly small beneath her steady pace. A hush began to ripple through the crowd as heads turned, conversations stalled, and whispers trailed like sparks in her wake. Lucien, mid-sentence in a circle of admirers, saw her and froze. His confident grin collapsed into disbelief, then rage. He strode toward her, jaw clenched, hands balled into fists. "What are you doing back here? I told you to wait in the car, not parade around like some martyr." Amara didn't even look at him. She walked by as if he were nothing more than an inconvenient noise. She headed straight for the stage, where the microphone for toasts stood waiting. "Security!" Lucien barked. "Grab her!" Two guards appeared, but instead of moving toward Amara, they positioned themselves behind him. Lucien spun around, confusion dawning too slowly to save his pride. "What are you doing at your own team?" he shouted. "Following the owner's instructions," one replied flatly. Lucien's face drained of color. Amara reached the stage, adjusted the microphone slightly, and faced the room. She didn't need to tap the mic to silence the crowd. Their attention was already pinned to her. "Good evening," she began, her voice amplified and steady. "I apologize for interrupting the festivities, but an important clarification must be made." Lucien laughed weakly from the floor. "Folks, don't mind her. She's had a rough night. She's emotional." "Lucien Thorne is no longer the acting head of this company." Gasps erupted across the ballroom. Amara held up the tablet Mr. Calder had given her. Its glowing screen reflected off the chandeliers like a badge of truth. "As of this morning, I, Amara L. Hawthorne, am the sole owner and executive chair of the Hawthorne Thorne Group. All company expenditures, including this banquet, are under my authority." People murmured, shifting uneasily. Eleanor's heavily painted face contorted in horror. Lucien lunged forward, attempting to reach the stage. "She's lying. She's having some sort of breakdown. Someone pull her down from there." But the guards blocked him, their arms forming an impenetrable wall. Amara continued, her tone icy and controlled. "Effective immediately, this event is terminated. The venue and catering staff will receive full payment tonight, something Lucien failed to provide for months." A shocked silence fell. Then, as if on cue, a waiter near the wall stepped forward timidly. "That's true. We haven't been paid." Dozens of heads whipped toward Lucien. He took a step back, then another. His throne, his illusion, was collapsing. Amara lowered the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, please exit the hall." Nobody questioned her authority. One by one they filed out, leaving Lucien standing alone on the glossy floor. As the last guest slipped out the doors, Lucien turned toward Amara with a look that mixed desperation and terror. Because now he finally understood the woman he'd tried to break was the one holding his entire world in her hands.
By dawn, the ballroom scandal had rippled through every corner of the city. Lucien Thorne's fall from grace was all anyone whispered about. But Lucien himself wasn't thinking about gossip. He had spent the night in a cheap roadside motel, pacing the threadbare carpet like a trapped predator. Morning sunlight filtered through stained curtains as he splashed cold water on his face. His reflection looked nothing like the man who, just hours ago, held court among Atlanta's elite. His eyes were bloodshot, hair disheveled, and the knot in his jaw pulsed with fury. "This is temporary," he muttered to himself. "It has to be." He grabbed his suit jacket and stormed out. By 8 o'clock, he was at the towering glass headquarters of the Hawthorne Thorne Group. He strode toward the security turnstiles with the confidence of a man accustomed to doors opening for him. He swiped his keycard. Beep. Red light. Access denied. Lucien blinked, then swiped again. Another denial. "Come on," he snapped. "Mr. Thorne?" said Lena, the young receptionist, nervously peering from behind her desk. "The system is malfunctioning. Open the gate," Lucien barked. Lena swallowed. Her hands trembled as she pointed toward the lobby bulletin board. A directive was posted this morning. Lucien strode to the board. There, neatly pinned, was an official notice. Directive 1, effective immediately. Removal of Lucien Thorne from all executive duties, due to contract expiration and verified misconduct. Signed in sweeping ink, A. L. Hawthorne. His pulse roared in his ears. "This is a forgery," he shouted, tearing the sheet down and crumpling it. The security guard approached cautiously, hand brushing his baton. "Sir, you need to calm down." Lucien shoved past him, storming out of the building. His mind raced. If he couldn't get into the office, he had to regain control from home. His private safe contained original documents, surely something he could twist in his favor. He drove to their gated estate and slammed the car door behind him. He punched in the entry code. Nothing. No, no. He entered it again and again. The keypad flashed red. Through the iron bars, he saw a new lock mechanism, a new security system, new cameras. Everything had changed overnight. He hammered the gate with both fists. "Amara, open this gate!" A neighbor, watering his lawn, glanced over with disapproval. "You shouldn't be causing trouble, son. Amara said she didn't want disturbances." "My house!" Lucien roared. "She changed the locks." "She's the owner," the neighbor replied, unimpressed. "Maybe stop shouting before I call the police." Lucien picked up a loose stone and hurled it at a window. The glass cracked, but didn't break. Immediately, the neighbor dialed his phone. "That's it. I'm calling this in." Inside the house, Amara watched the scene from an upstairs window. For a moment, her chest tightened. This was the man she had once loved. Pitiful, frantic, unraveling at the seams. But the memories of the divorce papers, of those empty years, stiffened her spine again. Behind her, Mr. Calder entered quietly. "Don't go out there," he murmured. "The man outside is done seeing reason." "I know," she said. Mr. Calder placed a box of documents on the table beside them. "You asked why he stayed with you. This will answer that." Amara opened the box. The first thing she saw made her stomach drop. Surveillance photos dated months before she ever met Lucien. Photos of her childhood home, her father working in the garden, even her younger self walking home from music school. She lifted a stack of legal documents. The truth hit like ice water. Lucien had married her under contract. He had planned his escape from the start. Outside, police sirens wailed nearer. Amara stared at the final page, a clause that explained everything. Lucien never loved her. He had only been waiting to claim her inheritance, and today was the day he thought he could finally cut her loose. The police car's lights flashed outside as officers restrained Lucien, but Amara barely noticed. Her world had shrunk to the papers spread across the table, paper graves holding the truth of a decade. The contract was explicit. 10 years of marriage required. Divorce before that meant Lucien forfeited all rights. 10 years of pretending. 10 years of manipulation. 10 years of rehearsed affection. A hollow ache opened in her chest. Why would he stay with me only to throw me away when time was up?" she whispered. Mr. Calder unfolded his arms and pointed to another document tucked beneath the surveillance photos. "Because he believed her father would hand him the company the moment that contract expired." Amara scanned the pages. They contained email exchanges between Lucien and a lawyer, each message worse than the last. "Prepare the divorce petition. I'm done playing devoted husband. Make sure she gets nothing. She's a gray burden, nothing more. The 16th is the morning I'm free." Amara closed her eyes. Every tender moment, every apology, every gift, it all crumbled into hollow lies. And yet the worst was still waiting. Another folder lay at the bottom of the box, labeled in Mr. Calder's neat handwriting, Correspondence Intercepted. Amara lifted the lid and froze. Inside were dozens of envelopes, some old and yellowed, some newer, all addressed in her familiar looping script. Her heartbeat stuttered. Dad? Dad wrote to me? She whispered. For 10 years, Calder confirmed. Every month. Amara's throat tightened as she opened the top letter. My Amara, I hope you're eating well. The winter was rough at the farm, but I'm all right. Let me know how you're settling into married life. I miss your music. Her vision blurred. Another letter. I didn't hear from you this month, but that's all right. Perhaps this city keeps you busy. I'm proud of you. Write when you can. Another. I'm worried. Your last note was so cold. Is something wrong? Please don't feel ashamed of me, my girl. You're my only family. No, Amara whispered, shaking her head. No, I never wrote anything like that. She opened more. Amara, if I hurt you somehow, tell me. Your last message said not to contact you anymore. You can't truly mean that. Tears streamed freely now. I never said that. I would never. A cold, sharp voice echoed from the doorway. Oh, get over it. Eleanor Thorne stood in the entryway, wild-eyed, her burgundy dress wrinkled and makeup smeared. She had a spare key to the house, one Amara had forgotten. You? Amara breathed, horrified. Yes, me, Eleanor snapped, striding inside as if she still owned the place. What, you think letters magically disappear on their own? Someone had to protect my son's chances. Amara's stomach turned. You intercepted them? Her voice cracked like glass. Oh, not just intercepted, Eleanor sneered. I rewrote the replies, mimicked your handwriting perfectly, told that pitiful farmer of a father to stop embarrassing you with his poverty. She laughed sharply, a sound without any humanity. And he believed it, stupid man. Mr. Calder stepped forward, fists clenched, but Amara lifted a trembling hand to stop him. And why? Why would you do something so cruel? Eleanor's eyes flashed with venom. Because if you had kept contact with him, he would have warned you about the contract. My son needed the inheritance. You were just the bridge to it, a bridge better kept quiet. And if I had my way, you'd have stayed quiet forever. A chilling silence filled the room. Amara trembled, but something new stirred beneath the grief, something sharper, stronger. Rage. That was my family. My father. Oh, please, Eleanor scoffed. If you had just died sooner. Mr. Calder moved faster than she could finish. He stepped between them, towering with barely restrained fury. Say another word and I drag you out myself. But before Calder could lay a hand on her, Eleanor spat out one final truth, a truth so vicious it would change the course of Amara's next move entirely. Eleanor's face twisted into a triumphant sneer, as if she took pleasure in dropping one last poisonous seed. You think those letters were my worst secret? She hissed. You still don't know why you never had a child with my son, do you? Amara stiffened. The floor seemed to tilt beneath her. Mr. Calder's eyes sharpened. Mrs. Thorne, leave. But Eleanor jabbed a finger toward Amara like a dagger. Ask yourself, 10 years and not a single pregnancy? You think that's nature? You think Lucien ever wanted a child with you? Amara felt the blood drain from her face. What are you saying? Eleanor smirked with cruel satisfaction. Ask your doctor, dear. Then she turned and stormed out, her heels clacking down the stairs before the door slammed behind her. A terrible stillness settled over the room. Mr. Calder spoke first. We're going to the clinic now. Amara couldn't find her voice to answer, but she followed him numbly. The Beaumont Reproductive Center was quiet that afternoon, the lobby hushed with soft music and the scent of disinfectant. Amara's heart pounded as she approached the reception desk. "I need to speak with Dr. Halden," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "Immediately." Moments later, Dr. Halden, a man in his 50s with silvering hair and a calm demeanor that now seemed sinister, stepped out of his office. When he saw Amara, he flinched. "Amara, you don't have an appointment today. Is everything—" She thrust a printed bank statement into his hands. "Explain these payments." The doctor blinked at the numbers. Monthly transfers. Large ones. All marked consultation fees. "This is confidential information," he stammered. "I am the owner of the company that funded those payments, and I am your patient. You will explain everything, or the next person you speak to will be the district attorney." Dr. Halden's shoulders sagged. His composure cracked. He walked to his desk and sank into his chair, rubbing his temples. "Lucien pressured me," he began weakly. "He said a pregnancy wasn't a part of his plans. Not yet." Amara's breath caught. She gripped the arm of the chair opposite him to stay upright. "My tests, the treatments, the pills you said I needed, you didn't need them." Halden admitted, unable to meet her eyes. "Your reproductive health is completely normal, Amara. You always were capable of conceiving." A chill crept through her veins. "What exactly did you prescribe me?" The doctor swallowed. "Hormonal suppressants, contraceptives disguised as fertility medication." Amara stumbled backward as if struck. The room blurred. For years she had swallowed those pills faithfully, believing she was trying, fighting for a child. She remembered crying in the bathroom with negative test after negative test, telling herself it wasn't her fault, telling herself she might never be a mother. Lucien had been watching her break and pretending to comfort her. He stole a decade of her dreams. "You manipulated my body," she whispered, voice shaking with fury. "You lied to me. You took my choices, my future." Dr. Halden lowered his head in shame. "Lucien paid me to keep your fertility suppressed until the contract ended. He said a pregnancy wasn't part of his exit strategy." Exit strategy, a phrase colder than steel. Mr. Calder stepped forward. His voice carried a lethal calm. "Doctor, prepare to face your consequences." "No," Amara said suddenly. Both men looked at her. "I'll deal with Lucien myself first." Her voice was steady now, deadly steady. She took out her phone and dialed the bank. "Yes, this is Amara Hawthorne. Freeze all accounts linked to Lucien Thorne. Terminate his company vehicle lease immediately, and notify me when the repossession is complete." She ended the call. For the first time, she felt the burn of justified wrath, not shame, not grief, but power. While Amara reclaimed control, Lucien was about to discover that the life he'd built on lies was collapsing faster than he could run, starting with his car, his money, and every last person who once pretended to be his ally. Lucien stepped out of the police station with the stiff gait of a man trying to hold on to the last shreds of pride. The officers had released him with a warning, but the humiliation cut deeper than any fine. A night in a holding cell, neighbors watching him being handcuffed, cameras recording his fall. He needed control back, money, status, his image, something. He reached for his phone to call his lawyer. No service. He frowned and checked again. Account disconnected. What the? A tow truck turned the corner and Lucien's jaw dropped as it reversed toward him. His sleek luxury coupe, his prized symbol of success, was clamped and hoisted into the air. "Hey, that's my car!" he shouted, running toward the driver. The man barely glanced at him. "Repossession order. Says here the leaseholder revoked authorization." "Lease? That car is mine." "No, sir.
the driver said, tapping the clipboard. "This is company property, and the company isn't yours anymore. Take it up with your employer." Lucian froze. Employer. Amara. His breath quickened as the truck drove off, taking the last piece of pride with it. He stormed to the nearest ATM. Card declined. Card declined. Card declined. The machine swallowed one of them entirely. Lucian slammed his fist against the glass. "Are you kidding me?" People stared. His final attempt at damage control was his lawyer, Cyril Denton, a man who charged enough to bankrupt a small nation. Cyril had always greeted him with warm smiles and bourbon, but when Lucian barged into the office waving his arms like a madman, the receptionist looked startled. "I need to see Cyril, now." She blinked. "Mr. Thorne, I'm sorry, Mr. Denton is no longer representing you." Lucian stared at her, dumbfounded. "What do you mean, he's not representing me? He's been my attorney for 8 years. "Yes," the receptionist said cautiously, "but an hour ago, Ms. Hawthorne retained him as legal counsel. We cannot represent opposing clients." The world spun. "Amara hired him?" he repeated, choking on the words. "In full," she replied gently. "Paid a retainer large enough to, well, secure exclusivity." The receptionist winced sympathetically. "She's very efficient." Lucian stumbled back into the hallway, gripping the wall to steady himself. Everything he thought he controlled, his power, his money, his alliances, had been ripped out from under him in a single day. He fumbled his phone again. This time, a notification flickered through before the device died completely. Account closure notice. Property access revoked. Vehicle repossessed. Corporate privileges terminated. Then the screen went black. "No! No! No!" he shouted, shaking it violently. The hallway echoed with his desperation. For the first time, he wasn't performing his outrage. He wasn't faking his temper for sympathy. He was unraveling, truly, fully unraveling. He stormed out of the office building, chest heaving, veins pulsing hot beneath his skin. "This isn't happening," he muttered. "She can't do this to me. I'm the reason she ever had anything. I built her. I built all of it." But even as he ranted, his voice cracked. Because he knew the truth. He hadn't built anything. He had leached off of Amara's legacy and planned to discard her the moment her usefulness expired. And she had finally stopped letting him. Lucian sank onto a concrete step outside, burying his face in his hands. For the first time in his adult life, he had no plan. No money, no allies. Just the bitter taste of a downfall he never saw coming. As the wind picked up and the city hummed indifferently around him, a single terrifying realization settled like ice in his chest. Amara Hawthorne wasn't done. Not even close. And while Lucian sat in the ruins of his former life, Amara was preparing for the final confrontation, one that would expose not just his lies, but the life he'd built on breaking her. The Hawthorne Thorne headquarters gleamed like a tower of judgment when Amara stepped out of the car. The morning sun struck its mirrored windows, casting reflections as sharp as blades. She walked through the entrance with a confidence she never imagined she could possess. Not forced, not borrowed, but earned. Employees murmured as she passed, not with pity this time, but with respect tinged with curiosity. The scandal had circulated faster than wildfire. Everyone knew something explosive had happened. Everyone wanted answers. Today, she would give them. Mr. Calder walked beside her, carrying a portfolio of documents that had been kept locked away for years. The truth, the proof, the end. "The board will resist Lucian's removal," Calder warned quietly as they stepped into the private elevator. Amara pressed the elevator button with a steady hand. The elevator chimed, opening to the executive floor, sleek glass walls, soft lighting, and a long, polished table where the 11 board members sat. Every head turned as Amara entered. At the far end, occupying the chairman's seat he no longer had the right to claim, sat Lucien. His suit was rumpled, his hair uncombed, his expression a desperate mix of arrogance and fear. He shot to his feet. "You don't belong here," he snapped. I didn't flinch. "I own this company. I belong everywhere in this building." "You can't do this," he said, stepping around the table. "These people know me. They trust me. They've worked with me for years." "And now they'll see who you truly are," she replied. The board exchanged uneasy glances. Lucien scoffed and spread his hands dramatically. "Fine, explain, Amara. Tell them your little fairy tale. Let's entertain the room." Amara opened the portfolio and placed a stack of documents on the table with a soft, deadly thud. "These are internal audits, personal contracts, and private financial records. Records you hid, manipulated, or destroyed." Lucien's jaw tightened. "You have no right." "I have every right," she said sharply. "You stole from this company. You lied to shareholders. You used corporate funds to pay off a doctor to suppress my fertility for 10 years. Several board members gasped. He swung toward them. "She's lying! You think I'd do something like—" Amara slid another document across the table. "These are the bank transfers, direct from company accounts to Dr. Halden." A sick silence fell. "And this," she continued, placing a new sheet down, "is the contract you signed with my father, the one stating your authority expired yesterday at midnight. You knew you'd lose your position. You planned to divorce me and walk away with whatever power you could steal before the truth came out." Lucien lunged for the papers, but 2 security guards stepped forward instantly, blocking him. "Sit down, Mr. Thorne," one ordered. Lucien glared at Amara, eyes burning with hatred. "You think you've won? You think you can turn everyone against me?" "I'm not turning them," she said softly. "You did that yourself." She turned to the board. "Effective immediately, I am removing Lucien Thorne from all corporate functions, revoking his access and filing charges for fraud, medical coercion, and financial misconduct." The oldest board member cleared his throat. "The evidence is overwhelming." One by one, hands were raised. All 11 voted in her favor. Lucien's face contorted. "This isn't fair. I made you who you are. You'd be nothing without me." Amara took a step closer, meeting his fury with calm steel. "No, Lucien, I survived you. That's what made me who I am." Security seized his arms. He thrashed violently. "Amara, you can't do this! You can't—" "Yes," she said quietly, "I can." And with that, Lucien Thorne, the man who spent 10 years controlling her life, was dragged out of the boardroom, powerless at last. But as Lucien's screams faded down the hallway, Amara felt something shift, because ending the battle wasn't the same as healing from it, and the next person she had to face was the one she had unknowingly hurt the most.
The boardroom was silent, long after Lucien's screams faded into the distance. Amara stood alone at the head of the long, polished table, her breath trembling despite the victory. The documents lay scattered before her, a battlefield of signatures, lies, and truths finally brought to light. But there was one truth she hadn't confronted, one wound she hadn't dared to face. Her father. Mr. Calder approached quietly. "The helicopter is ready, ma'am, if you wish to go." Amara nodded slowly. "It's time." The helicopter ride to her childhood hometown felt surreal, wind whipping around the cabin, the distant hum of blades, the world shrinking beneath her. She watched the landscape unfurl, forests turning to rolling fields, highways fading into narrow rural roads. The closer they flew, the more memories pressed against her chest, her father's laughter, her violin echoing through the old house, the scent of freshly baked bread on winter mornings. And then, the worst memory of all, the silence that had replaced him.
The pilot landed on a small clearing near the old Hawthorne farmhouse. It looked almost the same: weathered wood, a crooked fence, a porch swing that creaked in the breeze. Amara stepped onto the grass, heart pounding. Her father, Lionel Hawthorne, was kneeling in the garden, tending to a line of mint plants. His once dark hair had gone entirely silver. He moved slower than she remembered, smaller, more fragile. But when he heard footsteps, he looked up. For a full second, neither spoke. Then Lionel's eyes filled, not with anger, not with resentment, but with the kind of longing that breaks a person quietly, piece by piece. "Amara?" His voice cracked. Is it really you?" Her knees buckled and she rushed into his arms. "Dad? I never stopped writing. I swear, I never stopped." He pulled back slightly, confusion etching his face. "But your letters said—" "I didn't write them," she said, voice trembling. "Lucien's mother intercepted everything. She forged replies. She made you think I wanted distance. She took you from me." Lionel staggered, gripping the edge of the garden bed for support. "All this time, I thought I'd failed you, that I embarrassed you. I thought I'd pushed you away." "No," she choked out, reaching for his hands. "You were the only good thing I ever had. I missed you every single day." He wiped a tear from her cheek with a rough thumb. "My girl, look at what they did to you." "I'm done letting people hurt us," she whispered. "I ended it. All of it." They sat on the porch steps while she told him everything: the contract, the lies, the doctor, the manipulation. Lionel listened in stunned silence, each revelation a deeper cut than the last. "You survived hell, and you walked out with your head high. I'm proud of you, Amara, more than you'll ever know." She leaned against his shoulder, letting herself feel safe for the first time in a decade. "Dad, I want you home with me. Not in that cold house filled with memories of him, but in a new one. One we choose, one we build." Lionel smiled gently. "I'd like that." They stayed on the porch until twilight turned the sky amber. It was the first peaceful silence they'd shared in years. No lies, no fear, no intrusions. Just them. Before they went inside, Lionel squeezed her hand. "What will you do now?" Amara exhaled slowly. "Rebuild, heal, and make the company something worth inheriting." "And if Lucien comes back?" he asked softly. Amara's eyes hardened, not with pain now, but resolve. "I'm not afraid of him anymore. He taught me how to survive. Now I'll teach myself how to live." She stood beneath the fading sky, shoulders steady, ready for whatever came next. But as the porch light flickered on, neither of them noticed the black car parked across the field. Because Lucien Thorne wasn't finished, and neither was the war he had started. If today's story touched your heart or kept you hooked, you can show your love by sending a super thanks. Your support helps me continue creating more powerful life stories for you. Thank you, truly, for always being so kind and supportive. I can't wait to read your thoughts about this story. On your screen right now, you'll find 2 new stories that I highly recommend, filled with emotions, twists, and lessons. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe for many more inspiring life stories. Until the next one, sending you love, respect, and gratitude. See you in the next story.